I am with Allison Keefe today. She is the founder and the field hockey analyst, and she is going to tell us how she supports the game and why is she involved with this crazy sport of ours. Allison?
Thanks for having me.
So Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of outside of field hockey. We can see that you're not 50 years old, not 60 years old like I am. I'm over 60. But just give us a little bit of background and then maybe work your way into why are you doing this field hockey stuff?
All right, so I'm 22. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm apparently still a baby, at least according to every single person I've ever worked with. But I am from New Jersey. It's kind of a small town, not really a small town. Like my graduating class was almost 750 people from my high school, but no one's ever heard of it. It's like 20 minutes south of Rutgers.
700 people in a graduating class is a lot.
Oh,
For many of us who came from smaller schools.
Our high school is massive, but like no one knows where Old Bridge, New Jersey is. So it's a very odd combination.
It must be a regional high school.
Nope, it's really just only our town.
And you can say, well, but you're up nearer to New York than other places in New Jersey. I mean, it must be very densely populated, I guess.
Yeah, pretty densely populated, and we're also a pretty big commuter city because we're right on like two major highways, and you could get to the Parkway or to the Turnpike within probably 25 minutes. I'm closer to the Turnpike than the Parkway, so if you're on the other side of the town, Parkway is quicker. But like you could get to Newark Airport in like 30 minutes, New York City 45, and Philly depends on traffic, but usually like an hour and 20.
Old Bridge is known to me. I don't know if I shared this with you before. I think I did, but I umpired games at Old Bridge a million years ago. And actually it was one of the best experiences ever because as my umpire partner and I walked onto the field, the captains from Old Bridge came over to us and they had a snack. I think it was like Ritz crackers and a water. And I'm not saying that there were any 50-50 calls that went Old Bridge's way during that game, but it was just such a nice welcoming, to umpires who were coming out to umpire the game. Thanks for coming. Hey, here's a snack. Hope you have a good time. Something along those lines. So it's something that I actually have brought forward in umpire training that I do for captains in terms of, what they might consider doing prior to a game.
Do you happen to remember what field that was on? Because we play on a baseball field now, and I can guarantee it was not the baseball field.
Well, it was grass. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was baseball field. The only baseball field that I remember umpiring on, if you will, was at a school in Mercer County. South Plainfield, I think it was called.
I know where South Plainfield
is. Wait a minute. I'm not sure it's South Plainfield. That's a town.
I think South Plainfield's in Middlesex because we.
Yeah. I'm talking about. There's a north and a south. I can't remember it. I can't believe it. Anyway, the part of the field ran across the infield of the baseball field.
Yep.
Which made for some interesting play on the sand, which is sometimes better surface than the grass. But of course, there was a ridge in between the grass and the sand. And then every time the ball went there with speed, somebody was ducking out of the way. Sometimes it, of course, was the umpire. But oh my goodness, I just can't think of the name of that school. North and South, Plainsboro.
I think that would make sense. Yeah.
So what else what'd you do in high school?
I was a nerd, shockingly. Although math was my least favorite subject, which I feel like would surprise quite a bit of people considering my entire account is like analytics, which is math. Very much nerd. I was in probably every honor society I could be in except for math, shockingly. I took German for like 5 years. Probably can't speak a lick of it at this point. But
you had a book that said Peter ist in den Boot. No, you didn't have that one.
No. We actually had a book. This is like a really funny sidebar story, but we had a book. It was about Snoopy needing knee surgery because he got hurt, I think, in ice hockey. And I had knee surgery in 7th grade, or nope, not 7th grade. I got injured in 7th grade. I got knee surgery in 11th grade, which is, I don't know. But
It rushed you right to the hospital 4 years later or something.
I don't know. But what's it called? The big part of like my story is that I've always have had knee problems, which caused me not to play. But my friends used to always joke because at the end of the book it said, Snoopy hopped keinen Knie, sorry to anyone who speaks German. I cannot speak German for the life of me, but it basically said like Snoopy has no knees, and everyone used to joke that I was Snoopy because like it was a story about Snoopy getting injured in ice hockey and hurting his knee and needing knee surgery, and I got hurt kind of sort of in field hockey and needed surgery for my knee. So it was like a big joke.
Very,
With
very
my
good.
friends.
Well, from my side of the personal side of stories, after having 3 children, my late wife and I adopted a baby girl from China. And at that time, China was only releasing babies that had problems into the United States for adoption. And so we prepared for many different types of possible problems. And when her report came through, it said out knee, or out knees. And it was like, well, does that mean she's bow-legged? Or does it mean like she doesn't have knees? Like what could that mean? Anyway, when the baby came home, there was absolutely nothing wrong with her. Other people were told that their child had a paralysis in the left side, or some other anomaly, and none of the babies had anything with them. We figured that it was just that they got told, the orphanage had to tell somebody that there was a problem with this baby. Anyway, she grew up and played a pretty decent game of field hockey during middle school and high school. So anyway, so how'd you get involved with field hockey?
So my field hockey story is probably one of the more unconventional ones. I was a competitive cheerleader for 8 years and like truly was the most competitive person in existence, but I was really not amazing at cheerleading. I think, tumbling onto your knees, probably not the best thing for someone who already has some knee issues. So I got to the point where I didn't really want to be on my all-star team, which is essentially club for field hockey terms. It's super duper expensive, a lot of competitions, full year. Tryouts are in May, you end in April of the next year. Like it's a very interesting environment for small children to be in. So my mom turned around and told me that I had the choice between either not cheering at all or going to high school cheer. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to high school because I didn't really want to do competitive. Well, I couldn't do competitive. That wasn't an option anymore. And I didn't want to quit. But I am a very quiet person, which once again, probably doesn't come across that way. But if you know me in real life, I was at a camp last week, I think, and someone described me as an orange because I have a really hard outer shell, but then once you break it, I'm easy to talk to. I don't know. It was one of the weirder analogies that I've gotten. But
those are the ones that you remember. So
yep. So I was kind of quiet, and I knew our high school cheerleading coach because she had been my 7th grade biology teacher, and I absolutely loved her. But I think she was on maternity leave at that point of the sports fair, because we have a sports fair in our middle school. All the high school coaches and usually the captains come to the middle school. I don't know what month, April, May, sometime around there. And you have to register for, especially for fall sports, you register for preseason. So the field hockey booth was here. The cheerleading table was here. So they were right next to each other. And I saw the coach, who was not the coach I knew, at the cheerleading table. And I was like, stranger danger. I'm just going to loiter to the side because I don't like talking to people I don't know. Once again, very quiet kid. Yeah. So I'm standing off to the side, kind of loitering, and I'm standing far away enough to the side that the field hockey table, I guess, thought I was looking at them or waiting for them. I was not. I had played field hockey for maybe 40 minutes of my life in gym class. It was not field hockey. It was floor hockey with like ice hockey, plastic ice hockey sticks. And I think every single time I played, I didn't wear my glasses, so I couldn't even see the ball when we played. Was not good in any sense of the term. But the captain came up to me, Janelle. She's absolute sweetheart. She wound up playing for Montclair State, obviously graduated quite a bit ago, because she was 4 years older than me. But she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, like, are you interested?" And me being quiet and a people pleaser was like, "Yeah, sure." So I like I think I put my mom's email address down because I didn't have an email at that point. I might have had an email, but it probably was like something super embarrassing. So I like put down my mom's email, didn't think twice, like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore all the emails, never gonna pursue this. June comes. So our first practice is, I think, the night of graduation or the night before graduation. We're in New Jersey, so we graduate super late. Our graduation is usually like June 22nd through 24th. I know a lot of people end in May. We end the end of June and we start after Labor Day. So September.
Plus snow days, you know?
Yeah. So like September 8th, something we start. We have a weird calendar. If you're from, other states. So it comes and I'm outside with my next door neighbors. I want to say he was playing soccer at that point. He wound up running cross country, I think. And my mom's talking to their mom, and I find out that my next door neighbor is the varsity goalkeeper. Their older sister is the varsity goalkeeper, and the mom's like, "You have to go. Like, she has to try it. At least go to one." And our first practice was at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and it was a 2-mile, timed 2-mile, where we had to get under 16 minutes. And I think that was probably one of the worst days of my life. I'm not a runner. I still cannot stand running at this point in my life. And I think I might have gotten like a 25-minute 2-mile. I don't even think I finished the last lap, if I'm being honest, because I just was not mentally or physically prepared to run a 2-mile. So, my start to field hockey was definitely an interesting one. My freshman year, I got a concussion, I think the last week of preseason. So I missed like the first 2 games. I missed our freshman tournament because I got nailed with a ball on a corner and broke like 3 fingers. Truly an eventful freshman year. Was not good whatsoever. I played defense because, once again, I hate running. So I figured defense was going to be the least amount of running. I don't know if that was a good decision on my behalf. Probably should have won in goal, but we had 2 goalies, so that wasn't going to work. And then going into my sophomore year, I wound up getting injured. I tore my meniscus and then did a bunch of other things that I don't even really know how to describe. I wound up needing surgery, but the surgery, for whatever reason, now mind you, I initially hurt my knee in 7th grade, so this is already 4 years later. The surgery, for whatever reason, I got told I needed it in maybe June or July, and the surgery was scheduled for November. And if you know anything about high school field hockey, November is after the season has ended, or it states like it is the end of the season. So I missed my entire sophomore season, and that's when I started doing stats for my team. And I kind of fell in love with stats. And the surgery was not exactly helpful. My knee still does not function properly. So my junior year, they were like, "Hey, you're probably going to have to sit out." And I like looked at my coach and was like, "Hey, can I just keep doing the stats? I'm not trying. I'm not trying to wake up at 6 a.m. every single day to run 2 miles just to sit out an entire season again. Let's do the stats." So that's kind of how I got to where I am, is a lot of knee injuries and a very interesting placement.
A disastrous beginning that ends up with a flower who is the field hockey analyst and all that you do for the sport. So let's talk a little bit about being the field hockey analyst. Where did you get the name the field hockey analyst?
So when I started I'm going to preface this with, I graduated college in 3 years. So when I say my senior year, it was kind of technically my junior year. It was 2022 to 2023. Makes everyone's life a little bit easier. So when I was in college, I had been posting on Twitter some D2, D3 stats, and then a little bit of the men's hockey World Cup that year, just because I was following it and figured I would post. And then that was like when Twitter became X, so it was like during the bankruptcy. So I was like, okay, I'm moving to Instagram because that's also where the kids are, or at least the players are. I shouldn't say kids.
Yeah,
Because
those little players when you were 20.
I was 19. They were
Yeah, oh my
older than
goodness.
me.
Those kids.
I
I love it because, of
would have been
course, at
20.
my age, someone your age, we I try to say players, but so often it's like the kid, and it's like, no, that's not a kid.
Yeah, I refer to college players, like college age athletes, as kids a lot. And my friends are like, "You're 22. Some of these people are older than you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. They are in fact older than me." But I still just refer to everybody as kids because it makes me feel older. Um,
There you go. So
but
let's go back to the field hockey analyst, the
yeah,
genesis of that.
so I'm starting. I'm starting the Instagram account, and I wanted to make it. I think it was supposed to be the field hockey analyst because it's technically the F hockey analyst on Instagram. And when I made it, I thought the field hockey analyst was way too long. And then also, I know I do it myself, but I've noticed a lot of players have a tendency to spell field wrong.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but there's just a lot of like there's even kids who like, and these are like actual kids, they're high schoolers whose like Instagram names will be the field hockey analyst, but field is spelled incorrectly. So I was like, okay, I can't put the hockey analyst because then people are going to assume I'm talking about ice hockey because it's college and it's America. But I don't want to put the field hockey analyst because then that's really long and people might spell it wrong. So I went with the F hockey analyst, and then the full name is the field hockey analyst, just so, if you happen to see the username and ignore the F and you get to the page and you're like, oh, why isn't, I don't know, Ohio or Wisconsin ice hockey on here? I think they just won the NCAA championship. Then you're like, oh, field, cool. So that's kind of where the name's from.
Okay. All right. And what was like the first things you were doing with the field hockey analyst?
So first things, the first post, I think it might be goal times during the World Cup. I know it was probably goal times was one of the first, because there's like the concept of fight for four, or goals are scored within 2 minutes of one another. Which is like a big thing that at Sacred Heart, one of our coaches, Courtney Kennedy, who's now at Providence, used to always say fight for four because goals happen to have a tendency to be scored within 4 minutes of one another. So
And so,
that was
so the idea is that you're scored upon or you score, and please, for the next 4 minutes, concentrate and fight hard because you might just get, a goal scored against you.
I think the concept, I'm pretty sure the concept roots from if, like, after a goal is scored, a lot of teams that have been scored against put their heads down. Because especially in field hockey, there are no timeouts. So you can't, it's not NCAA basketball where someone scores and they just call like 400 timeouts and makes 1 minute class 300. Been watching a lot of NCAA tournament this week. But so with field hockey, there's no timeout. So players have a tendency to maybe put their heads down or get into themselves like, oh, like that was my fault, whatever. And the other team has an opportunity to score. Or sometimes teams get a little bit too excited that they scored and they're like, oh, we're up, we're good. And then they are kind of on their back foot and then the opponent will score.
Okay.
So it actually does happen pretty often. So I know that was like one of the first stats. And then when I started it, it was the end of February. It was, I think, like February 26th, 28th, something like that. So it was right before spring season. So I posted a lot, or like spring sports. So I posted a lot of like about dual sport athletes in Division 3 because that's a concept that like at that time was really like kind of astonishing to me that like Division 3 athletes, a lot of them play multiple sports. Now I know that's like at this point, I know that's pretty common to have D3 athletes and even I mean, McKenna Webster, D1, plays 2 sports. A lot of players do play 2 sports in college, but that was kind of a foreign concept to me when I was in college. So that's something I decided to post a lot about. And then I know I did a lot about like National Athletic Trainer Month because that's March, and that was right after I'd started the account. So it made sense time-wise to do that.
And as an analyst, did you you said it does happen a lot when there's a second goal scored within 4 minutes. Now, was that just a phrase, or did you actually find that to be true?
Yeah, so I found it to be true. Honestly, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head because I have not looked at that stat in quite a bit of time. But I know that at least I think I did it for the Men's World Cup. And for the Men's World Cup, like almost most of the goals were scored within a certain amount of time of each. I think it was 4 minutes of each other.
Interesting. Okay. Any other, as we go on in your life as the field hockey analyst, any other, and I'm going to hold back on what I think is the most important stat that you report on, but have any truths proven to be, or any rumors or false statistical analysis proven to be rumors? In other words, I don't know what, but like goalies always make saves with the right foot. I don't know. I just wonder if there's anything on the statistical side of things that you've found that is just not true or is true, and maybe people don't pay attention to it.
Well, I'm sure the one that you were talking about is corners because
yes, but don't talk about that yet.
It's the one everybody talks about. But I'm trying to think. I mean, the one that kind of fascinates me the most is just I really am interested in circle entries and the amount of players that drive baseline, go from basically the end line for those who don't use like terminology or who don't know the terminology.
I know. So in the rules, it's called a back line. We all, in America kind of call it the baseline.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of references, but the field is a rectangle. And we are talking about the part of the field where we're at the goal, and there's a line that goes from sideline to sideline, and that's the line you're talking about. So on a coaching perspective, you either kind of attack on the right side or the left side or right down the middle. Sort of depends on what time of the game it is, or maybe there's a clear and obvious weakness on defense from the other team, and so you will attack that way. Too many times in high school, the kids kind of get the ball into the attacking quarter and just go right for the circle, as opposed to, I'm going to use a little more patience. I'm going to go all the way down into the corner and turn left or right, depending on which corner you go to, and then take the ball along the baseline and go into the circle that way. So what did you find?
So for the most part, if you're going baseline, it's a more effective strategy to get corners if you want to go baseline. Now, once again, corners might not be as effective depending on your program and your team, and most importantly, if you have a drag flicker on your team. But
let me add one other: if you're playing on grass or not.
Oh yeah, if you're playing on grass, then that's
forget about it.
Whole nother conversation. Just I don't know, shoot as much as you can and pray it goes in. Yeah. I have no strategies for grass.
Yeah.
So, because what happens with baseline is you have a really poor angle because the goalkeeper, this uploads with video, right?
What'd you say?
This uploads with video because I'm like demonstrating with my hands and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. This is what people are seeing. We're not uploading a video demonstration of a penalty circle entry from the baseline.
Okay, perfect. So your goal is here. Your goalkeeper is going to angle towards the ball, and now you have a brick wall. And I mean, if you're a team has a little bit of common sense, you're going to have a player up at stroke or a little bit higher to pass it in. And a lot of goals are scored from the area between stroke and the goal. They're not really scored from outers, and I feel like the outer circle is more probably like corner or direct hits off of corners. Don't necessarily have the data to prove that because I haven't looked at it, but it's a really hard angle when you're on baseline. But you have players, especially like Liv Bent-Cole, who can, and I should say also say Maddie Zimmer, who are very good at getting to that spot and either forcing the corner or forcing the ball to a better angle, which I think is really interesting and important in the in the competitive Division 1 and the international game, because we always teach players, at least in all the environments I've been in, we would teach players that, oh, you have to use the outside of the field, use the outside of the field, don't drive down the center. But then I think a lot of our players have a hard time figuring out what they're supposed to do once they get into the sides, because the angle is so poor that they just take the shot that they probably shouldn't be taking instead of looking to redirect to the center. So I think it's also a coaching thing that we need to teach them what to do once they get there and to not just take the poor shot.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you've done some study about that, because certainly, you know, from a coaching perspective, or no, more like just general fan, maybe, I don't mean low level coach, I mean, but with not a lot of analysts, a lot of times, analytics, I should say, we think it's better to do this, or we think it's better to do that, or we might say like, oh, never go right down the, you know, the middle of the field and go into the circle. So when, as a fan, when I'm watching, I keep track of, or doing announcing, I keep track of, well, how many times did they enter the circle on the right, on the left, or down the middle? And then hopefully, although you don't usually have a lot of time and you're doing a live broadcast, to do some analytics about whether one or the other, any of these three, was more successful. And did any of those lead to possession inside the circle, let alone the result of the possession? Like, was there a goal? Obviously, that's great. Was there a penalty corner? That's also pretty good, unless you're playing on grass and you don't have a drag flicker. Yeah, well, you couldn't drag flick anyway. So
I mean, if the grass is all dead and it's just dirt, you could potentially drag flick.
That's a great field, and we see a lot of videos from a lot of other countries where, you know, they're not, you know, turf all over the place, and they're playing on dirt, but it's not a bad surface, you know. So so anyway, but with the analytics, it's very interesting to me if you can prove that essentially some coaching methodology ends up being the correct one. Down the middle, from the right, from the left, you know, like you said, well, you're not gonna score too often from the baseline, but you might be more likely to end up with penalty corners with that type of entry. So do you know, Allison, do you know if circle entries from the baseline actually lead, circle entries and possession actually lead to more penalty corners than circle entries from the top?
I don't know if I know an exact number for it, but I'm like 98% certain that that's what the numbers proved.
Okay. I love that. You know that 73.
I'm keeping that 2% because there are definitely teams where it is not as effective. I'm just like, there are certain teams that just can't carry, or I shouldn't say can't carry a ball, can't effectively create corners.
Right. Well, and some players, you mentioned the player earlier, Maddie, you know, and there are some players. My son Kiet, when he played, he was amazing at getting penalty corners, you know, because he's such a great ball handler, and it was very frustrating for defenders. But if you bring the ball down to the baseline and you enter the circle there, and there are a shift in defenders, I'm using my hands below the camera, towards that play, right? And so there's a lot of opportunities for potential penalty corners, whether you play the ball onto a foot, or you know, end up with an obstruction against, you know, for you, and you end up with a penalty corner. So it's just interesting that, you know, like, you don't have an exact number. I think that would be a good number to have. Coaches would love that number. What's the evidence? What's the proof? Where should maybe my team be going versus, or is there an attribute about a team with a really fast right winger that says that I should do that more on the baseline? Or I have a regular old right winger, you know, not particularly fast, does a nice job in the position, and they can get into the circle from the baseline, but it really doesn't help. So I just wonder, I think coaches would be very interested in, you know, proof. I was going to say that 73.17 or 16% of all statistics are made up. So it would be great if you could actually get to a real number. So, but let's talk about one of the most important things that I think the field hockey analyst has brought to the game of NCAA college, the same words, NCAA competitions, which is the conversion rate on penalty corners, which is not a stat that is provided by the NCAA in their record keeping, and or team record keeping, or maybe the teams know it but they don't want to tell anybody. Like maybe, hey, we're really bad at penalty corners, so come kick the ball, and we'll fail, and you'll get the free hit. So anyway, tell us about how you have developed what you do in terms of determining what a team's conversion rate is on penalty corners.
Sorry, there is just a very loud noise outside.
We don't hear it. We don't
know what it is.
Yeah.
So when it comes to penalty corners, I think that there's a lot of teams that are very good at them, and then there are teams that respectfully should stop trying to get them. And that's nothing against those specific teams, but there is a Division I college program who scored one corner the entire season. And I think
wait, just to be clear, scored on a penalty corner.
Yes, scored on a penalty corner once. I think it was out of 100 and something this year.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I think as a player, I would be extremely frustrated every single time we got a corner. So I don't necessarily know if that team specifically should be pursuing trying to get a foot every time they go in the circle.
Do you know the surface that they play on?
They play on their home field is field turf, but a lot of away games are on water turf.
Regulation turf. Yeah, short fiber.
I call it water turf. I know that that's probably not the right term.
There's no correct term. So it's a water-based surface, which means, there's water in the plastic. Is that what water-based means? Or water infill, means they wet the turf down, and basically it is absolutely a short fiber, tight weave turf. That is what we all call turf. And then there's field turf, which is a long fiber, loose weave. And then it's filled with an infill product that makes it very much like grass, that, the fibers are held up by the stuff that's in between. A lot of times that stuff that's in between is a base of sand, followed by rubber bits, which has other names as well, and get in your shoes and everything. And it's much harder to do any field hockey skills on long fiber, grass or synthetic, than it is on a short fiber, tight weave turf. So, this team has scored one time in hundreds of attempts, and that's like in a season.
In the whole season, I'm trying to find. I know I have a document of it. I'm just trying to find it. Give me like.
Yeah, well, I'll talk more about fibers. No, but it is very frustrating when you see a team. So back in the day, meaning when I played a long time ago, our penalty corner strategy was we had like 2 penalty corners, and both of those variations ended with a straight shot from the top of the circle or thereabouts at the goal. Nowadays, things are much more complicated. And a lot of goals, as you mentioned earlier, scored from deflections. You don't hit at the goal, you hit off goal, where you have a player who's sliding in to try to get that deflection at the last moment. And what I've seen a lot of times in terms of not supported by analytics, but watching a game, is that team is just trying to be too fancy, and they need to take a shot from the top of the circle because their passes are not working. The fiber, they have the long fiber turf, and it bounces over the kid's stick, there we go again, the player's stick, who is rushing in for the deflection, and it makes it impossible. So did you find
yes, I did find it. So the team, it was, okay, that's actually not as bad as I expected. They only had 28 corners this season.
Well, we like to exaggerate on one side of it. Yeah.
I thought they had a lot more than that. So that's actually not as terrible as I expected. I think also 28 corners in an entire season compared to like Northwestern had 210 probably tells you a decent amount about their level of offense in general. What was the original question? It was about
Sorry. Well, I mean, we're just
I got
talking about,
sidetracked.
the penalty corner stats. And so my actual question was, well, how do you determine it? Right?
Yeah.
Because even in the score sheets, they don't exactly tell you that the goal was scored on a penalty corner. But I suspect you have to do a little detective work to figure out, well, yeah, but that goal was scored on a penalty corner.
So for Division One, everyone has access to, or I shouldn't say everyone. All the college teams have access to a platform where they have to upload their post-game film. It's a requirement. I believe it's a requirement of the NFHCA. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a requirement for all teams that they have to upload a game film for every game unless there's like a massive issue which causes it to not be recorded. But considering that most teams do have some sort of live stream, I would guess that it is a requirement because usually if the regular film's broken, we get a very interesting live stream angle. That is very fun to use. But so Spidio, which is the platform they use, automatically codes every game to a lesser extent, like a lesser detailed extent of than like what I would personally do for a team, but it will mark when there's corners in the film. So all someone has to do is go through like go into the film and then look at when their corners are and then just see if they scored them or not. So usually what I do is I look at we'll look at a box score. So say who's the final, Northwestern versus St. Joe's. I'll look at the box score for it, and then if I know that the number was, or say it was 50 seconds, like there was a corner, and then 50 seconds later there was a goal, then I'll be like, okay, this happened in the second quarter. I'll go over to Spidio and just double check to see if that number looks right. For D2 and D3, it's a little bit less of a system because I don't have access to their Spidio to check. I don't honestly know if they use Spidio because I believe everyone's on the same platform. We just switched to Spidio this past fall. It used to be a different platform, so I don't know how theirs necessarily works because I don't have access to D2 and D3. So with them, I mostly use box scores, and then I have like a rough guesstimate of a time frame where if it's in that time frame, usually it's about 20 seconds. And then if it says that there's a save beforehand or a foul, then obviously that is not a goal off of a corner because it will say like corner or corner by whoever the insert is, and then it will say foul. So that means it wasn't scored directly. Or it will say like corner, shot, goal. So that usually indicates it is. Some teams are extremely helpful and just have a little description that says goal off corner, which makes my life so much easier, except for the teams that love to say right corner, which usually will throw me off because I'm looking for the word corner and they're saying that it was scored in like the upright corner
Oh
of
my
the
goodness.
net. And
Oh
I'm
my.
like, wait, it says corner here. Like there was a corner taken and there's a goal in the right corner, but was that goal off a corner? And then I have to figure that out.
Right. So if I'm correct, you are, however, creating this penalty corner conversion rate for every game, every team.
Every game, every team.
Division 1, Division 2, Division 3.
Yep.
Okay, so you were spending, I'm going to use the word ridiculous, a ridiculous amount of time coming up with this critical stat. For me, it's critical, and I'm not coaching, right? But that is the thing that I want to know about. It's in-game play, and maybe that just highlights that I have a very elementary understanding of what's important. But outside of who won the game, because penalty corners are so important to the game, I really want to know what the conversion rate is. Do you, by the way, do the conversion rate on penalty strokes?
Sometimes not all. It's one of those things that I usually track, but I don't record, like I don't post.
Okay.
Or I'll make like one post of like top penalty corner converters, like for individuals, mostly because they're not. I mean, I have seen games that have multiple penalty strokes, which is interesting, but a lot of the times you'll get maybe 1 or 2 a season. And then you'll have specific teams. I'm not going to name the team, but I know exactly what team I'm talking about, who doesn't include it in their individual stats. So when I pull out everybody's stats at the end of the year, for whatever reason, they don't include penalty strokes in their like individual stats. So you can't find them for the season, which is like incredibly frustrating, because then you have to go through every single game and check when they had a stroke. And respectfully, I don't care enough to do that.
Yeah, well, it's a different event, in the game event, a penalty stroke than a penalty corner. And they are rare, or you have examples of when they're not rare. They are arguably should be less rare than they are, especially at the high school level, because a lot of times umpires kind of wimp out and give a penalty corner when no, that should have been a penalty stroke. We don't want to allow certain activity. Well, I think a lot of people just don't understand why a penalty stroke is given. They often describe things and misquote the rule or conflate the two basic reasons into different things. Well, he took a shot, but let me think of what people say. He took the shot, and but it wasn't really a goal-scoring opportunity, or the defender kept him from getting to the ball, but it wasn't a goal-scoring opportunity. It's like, no, if the defender keeps him from getting to the ball using illegal behaviors, it's a penalty stroke. If you tackle from behind, you can do it the old tomahawk hack. Oh, she didn't mean to hit the stick. It doesn't matter. She did hit the stick, and that's a penalty stroke. But anyway, I belabor the penalty stroke conversation. And you do regular tagging, don't you, in games for teams?
Yep.
So I would imagine coaches would know this, at least for their team, like how successful they are coming in from the right, coming into the line, whether or not that led to a penalty corner. Is that part of the real statistical tagging, as opposed to this what is it, Speedio?
Yes, video. I think it's pronounced video. That's how I say it. But yeah, so that's something that we track for the teams that pay us to do that.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about pay, because I know you do this because you love it. And unfortunately, you've got a job where you're doing what you love, but a lot of it's volunteer, and you're not getting paid. So how do you make money?
So
why do you keep doing this? I'm not sure. I'm speaking to you almost like as a parent, like maybe your parents like, what are you doing, Allison?
Yeah, that's a conversation I have quite often with my mom. Because I'm 22, I still live at home because I refuse to want to pay for rent. But it is what it is. But yeah, so I have like a couple of jobs that support me to be able to do this. And then I also
you have a couple of jobs that support your habit. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It supports my addiction. But then I also like make money from doing the field hockey analyst. So I guess we'll start with like my real jobs first. I say real, that's probably rude to the field hockey analyst, but it's whatever. So
people understand what that means.
Yeah. So first, I'm a social media manager for a company. So that's like a solid regular income, makes my life a little bit easier, pays for my bills, all that fun stuff. Then during season, I'm an analyst for Graphing the Game, which is a field hockey analysis company. I probably should know how to describe this after 2 years, but it was started by.
What do you do? That might describe it.
Yeah. So we prepare game film for teams for scouting purposes, specifically or especially for corners, and then we do post game film analysis. So we work with, I would say, a decent amount of the top college programs. We don't work for all of them because some of them have their own on staff specifically like UNC has their own on staff. But we work for a handful of different colleges. I think this upcoming fall we're up to 10 programs. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe it's 10. I think last year was 8. I specifically work with 2 programs. And then obviously like we pick up depending on how many, if someone can't work that day, sometimes we'll work for other teams, but I specifically usually work for 2 programs, doing their post-game analysis, which means after their game, we have, I think it's 24 hours on Fridays and then 48 hours on Sundays. Mine are usually done by midnight on Friday and midnight on Sunday because I need to get things done for, my scheduling purposes. Because
sure, but so let me just go back. So you're working for a company that's doing the post-game analysis largely on penalty corners, largely in a scouting way, as opposed to self-team analysis, right?
It's a combination. We do both.
Okay, and it is growing. Like you said, last year this many, that many. So more and more colleges are investing in, and some colleges like UNC you mentioned has an on-staff person to do this. Team USA has an on-staff person to do this. I think the current or last one came from UNC, maybe.
Yep, Chris came from UNC.
Yeah, so it's obviously a role and or a role that a function that's important to more and more colleges, to a growing number of colleges.
Yeah.
And you don't do all of them, but you kind of are assigned a couple of teams. And maybe next year they're going to say, okay, Allison, now there's 3 teams that you're assigned to. Now, do you think it's better to have the same team, so you're watching the same team over and over again? Does that enhance your analysis? Or do you, you're always looking at other teams though. Anyway, I'm just curious.
So what's it called? I'm like 90% sure I'm allowed to say which teams I work for, but I'll go with 2 years ago just in case. So like one of the teams I used to work with, I wasn't assigned to them last year, is Ohio State. And I really enjoyed having Ohio State because McKenna Webster, and I cannot remember for the life of me if it was Brenna Burrow, I think that's how you say her last name, who was the other player. But there's 2 players, the right forward and the right midfielder. They, for some reason, just had like this dynamic duo combination that they would be able to, they created so many opportunities up the right side of the field, circle entries, 25 entries. And it was just one of those things that I loved watching because the 2 of them, you knew if one got it, someone, the midfield got it, the forward was absolutely sprinting up the field. And it was, I don't know, it was just a lot of fun to watch post game. Like if you saw, especially when I saw like McKenna had scored a couple of goals, I'd be like, oh, I already know exactly how this goal was getting scored. So to me, it's a lot more fun to get get a one team assigned because I like seeing trends. Sometimes it does create a little bit of frustration for me. Because sometimes you'll see something like happening that's consistently wrong. And you're like, okay, this is, I know how we could make this better, but maybe, we don't, at least in my role, I don't have direct contact with the coaches on suggestions. That's not, I do the coding. I don't have that conversation. So every once in a while, like there will be something that I'm like, okay, let me talk to Chris and be like, hey, can we suggest that we do this? Or do you know why this is?
Chris, just for the clarity, Chris is not this one.
Sorry, Chris is my boss. I'll ask him because I'm 22. I'm still young. This is only my 2nd year doing this. I'll ask him for clarification. Like, hey, do you know why this decision is being made? Because sometimes as the analyst, I'm watching the game. And of course, I'm watching it in 2 times speed after it's already happened. I already know the result. And I'll be like, I don't get why this decision is being made. And sometimes it's a really simple answer that I didn't even think of. Or sometimes it's like, okay, well, maybe that's actually something we should bring up to the coach.
I would think so. I would think that would be, the numbers are very important because they verify an opinion, if you will. Yeah. But the opinion is what a lot of companies make a lot of money on. It's the analysis that you've given and the things that you see. So you just described 2 players who seemingly have a magic connection, right? And you'll see that it'll display itself in other positions as well, you know. And I'm sure that as you see the same players play over and over again. In fact, that's one reason why, as umpires, we don't want to go see the same team over and over and over again, because you start, you know, knowing the players, not on a personal level, just like this is what they're going to do. This
Yeah.
is what they're like, oh, she'll get through that, so I'm not going to blow the whistle, you know, or something like that, where it might have been better to blow the whistle and give her the 5 yards. Maybe she make a difference anyway. So you see that magic connection between players and the things that aren't magical, that are presenting themselves to you because you're watching them over and over and over again. And I would think that it would be very important for you to tell Chris when you see things that you think should be shared with the coach. I would think as a coach, you know, I might at some level not be interested. Depends on the coach is what I'm saying. I might not be interested, or it might be like, ooh, that's the type of analysis I want. I don't want just the numbers. I want to know what you see, you know, what your opinion is. So I don't know. And so you have a real job, and that is something in the field that you love, right? Or is the social media job outside of field hockey?
It's in field hockey.
Okay, so there you go. And then the analytical job is also in field hockey. So you are supporting yourself inside the sport of field hockey that you are supporting. This is a supporting the game episode, so you know we got a lot of sport here. So that's really fabulous, especially since you love it so much. And I'm just happy to hear that it's a growing field. And I also like that your brand, you know, your field hockey analyst brand is growing. I assume it is. So you started your Instagram account with 1 follower, and I'm sure your mom is very nice. And but how many followers do you have now?
I think I checked it like yesterday, because I math person. I check it every month, and then I calculate the growth of like per month. This month was a little low compared to the last couple of months, but it's also, you know, March. We're not really in season. So right now we're at, I think it's 17,100, and I'm gonna go 70. I think it was like 60 something, but I got a couple followers this morning, so we'll go 70.
Okay, so wait a minute, 7D.
Yes. So it's 17170.
1717. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, so well, that's certainly fabulous. And do you know who your base is? Like, is this mostly young field hockey players, high school field hockey players, college field hockey players? You know, if you had a bell curve, what's on the curve?
So I think the highest I know it's like 26%, 27% is college age players, or like the 18 through 20, I think it's 22 age range. And then like just under like 20, so if it's like 26, it's like 23% is the 13 through 18-year-olds. And then it is like a weird jump to like 45 through 50 something year olds, which I'm assuming is parents.
Sure. Yeah.
And then it's like kind of from there, it's pretty inconsistent on like parents, coaches, that kind of stuff.
It's fabulous growth, and I'm actually surprised by the number of college players that are followers. And I say that because I get it. I get the parents, because of the information you provide, and I get the younger players because they are still at this point aspiring, right? But a lot of times, once the kid's in college, it's sort of like, well, you know, I'm kind of done. You know, I'm cooked. I'm this good. They might not see themselves getting much better. And so I would assume people follow your stats and the field hockey analyst for information as opposed to funny things you say, you know, that sort of thing. So I'm very happy to hear that roughly a quarter of your followers are in college and interested in, you know, improving their game through this information. I guess it could be kind of cool to find out, you know, certain bits, but I think as a current player, they would be most interested in using that information to get better.
Yeah, we see a little bit of like a drop off once kids graduate. So that's what's
graduate from what?
From college. Like that's kind of where we're at right now, is like March through May. we start to lose quite a bit of following because the players are graduating and they're like, like I don't really care that much anymore. Especially when I'm posting like 300 posts a day. But it's life. So we kind of see like this little bit of a drop off now, and then usually in August we'll see a big uptick because people, especially players who were high school seniors going to freshman year in college, who maybe, I don't know, are from states that we don't cover that often. Because I mean, most of the club teams we follow, we wind up covering are in this area: New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So we'll see like a big uptick in players from maybe other states, especially I find like the Chicago area, those players that go to high schools and clubs in those areas wind up following during preseason when they start college, because they're like, oh, we've never seen this account before, versus like a kid from, I'm just using, like, actually WC Eagles is not an amazing example. So we're going to use South Jersey Edge. South Jersey Edge, I mean, they were in a post this morning. They're a team that we wind up posting about quite frequently. So a lot of their players, their kids, start following at U14, U16. So they've already been following. I mean, the accounts existed for 2 years. I'm acting like it's been like 40. But we see a very big uptick in following from players that we don't necessarily cover their club teams as frequently as we do other teams.
So, the players from club teams that you don't cover often?
Yeah.
That's because they want to learn about the other club teams?
So they usually follow once they're starting college, because they're finding out about it once they're in college.
Oh, I see. So, well, let's talk about club for a minute. How much coverage of clubs do you do? I would imagine that would be difficult.
So clubs, it's very much like I don't know what the right word is, but like it's very much a give and go. We'll have really high volume club times, and then we'll have very low volume. So during the high school season, we pretty much don't touch high school players. And that's solely because a lot of the information we get would have to be self-reported. And we've had quite a bit of issues with self-reported information. And that just, it varies from schools not having I've had coaches tell me that they don't record stats. They don't care who scores, which.
Right. There's a philosophy around that.
Personally, it's a little like what to me, because I'm obviously a numbers person, but I completely understand the philosophy. I mean, high school,
that defender that sent the ball up to the right side is the one that actually scored the goal, even though Sally is the one that put it in the net. Yeah, if it wasn't for the defender, and we never talk about defenders except for goalkeepers, maybe a goal line save. So, and the other reason I would imagine you don't talk much about high school is because you're covering college.
Yeah,
it's a lot of time that you've talked about. So, but what do you do for a club? Like, pick a club, or don't give a name. It doesn't matter. But like, do clubs hire you, or are you just, I have analysis for this because they're in USA field hockey tournaments or something?
So a lot of what we do for clubs is more of like contests or like kind of stuff. Mainly like kind of contests and stuff along those lines. So for NITs, any player could submit a corner or a goalkeeper save, and they voted for who their favorite goal was, and then the players got stickers, whoever won. And I try to make it a lot more fun. I mean,
so these are
these are
engagement activities.
Yeah,
you're not doing analysis of the club play at the tournament.
Yeah.
There was 5,000 games, and which one do you go to? I was just at 3 NITs. It's like
they get very competitive over this kind of stuff. I've gotten some very absurd messages from mostly their adults regarding some of these contests when they're not that serious, but they get a lot of the kids are very competitive. But I think it's a good way to showcase different players, especially I think it was either U10s or U10s and U12s. One Empower won one of them, and Shorebirds won the other. I don't know which one which off the top of my head, but they're two clubs that maybe I don't cover that much. I want to say they're both based in Delaware. I might be wrong on where Shorebirds is located, but I want to say they're Delaware.
Delaware, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're two clubs that maybe, well, I don't really talk about too much. So it's kind of fun to get to highlight their players in a different sense than saying, oh, well, this is the best player in the world, because I think it's really hard to turn around and say that one high school player is better than another high school player, or even like a U12 is better than another U12, because they're very different environments. I mean, if you're playing in Pennsylvania and even New Jersey are very high competition areas. Versus if you're playing in Oklahoma, you're not seeing a lot of competition out in Oklahoma. And I don't know why Oklahoma is always my example, but they just are. So like I think it's pretty hard to compare kids. And then also it kind of goes back to like the self-esteem thing, which is a big thing for me. I know when I was not so much field hockey, but when I was a cheerleader, we were always comparing ourselves to like the team. So we have like the WC Eagles of the field hockey world is World Cup, and they are located about 20 minutes away from where my gym was located. And it was really hard to not always compare ourselves to World Cup and how World Cup was doing and what skills their players were posting. And I think that feeds into a really negative mindset, especially for young kids who are so impressionable, that I don't want to contribute to that by saying, oh, well, so-and-so is, the most talented player. Because at the end of the day, field hockey players are meant to peak around 26 or 20, like in 26 to ages 26
right.
to 28.
They're not close. They're not even close yet when
they're not supposed to be peaking for another 10 years. Obviously, in the NCAA system, we have a little bit of an issue where we cut them off at like age 23, which is a whole nother conversation and side rant.
Let me take a second to add something to what you said, because I think it's so important. I created a thing called the Garden State Games field hockey event in 1983. You probably were not on the planet.
Nope.
That was a long time ago. I can't do the math that fast.
I don't think my parents were married yet.
Yeah. Right. Maybe they weren't on the planet. Anyway, and over time it grew in terms of interest. It was the first tournament played with FIH rules. It was played on turf starting in 1984. This was new for high school age young women. And I remember and eventually there were 400 kids trying out all over the state in 4 different regions. And one of the young women from my area didn't make the cut. She didn't make it through and we had tried to do very objective things in terms of selections, like, yardstick test, speed tests. Nobody was allowed to wear their school outfits. So back in the day, it would be like somebody from Eastern of a few years ago, where Riley Heck was from, oh, she's from Eastern, she must be good, not knowing whether it was Riley, for example. And this is way before Riley was on the planet. Mm-hmm. But we tried to make it as objective as possible. And this young player did not make the cut. She wasn't going to play in the Garden State Games. And her mom or her, I can't quite remember, contacted me and say, well, she just wants to be available, like if somebody drops out. And I said, okay, well, listen, next Friday night, a bunch of us are getting together to sort out the uniforms, because we had, hundreds of players that were going to come. So we needed to put the mediums and all that stuff. And so we had a confab at my dad's office. And one of this young player came and she helped. Anyway, so she wasn't that good, as a 14-year-old or something like that. But she was on the U.S. team 10 years later, and played in the Olympics. So it's not how good you are when you're 12 that means a whole lot for your future in field hockey, whether that means top level player just enjoying the game for the rest of your life. So yeah, I agree with you that sometimes we make a little bit too much of how a player of a certain age is performing relative to other players of that certain age, because people catch up. So anyway, I agree. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you might want to add to our discussion that we didn't cover?
Can I promo my new recruiting database?
Absolutely.
Alrighty. I'm not a good elevators pitch person. If you've ever met me, you would know that.
I could help you with that though. I try to invent products every other day. So.
Yeah. So me or the field hockey analyst as a brand, but me as a human being. Because when I say the field hockey analyst and I say we, 98% of the time I'm referring to myself. And that other like, I don't know, I think I said 98. So 2% of the time I'm referring to my intern. But 99 or 98% of the time I'm referring to myself. So me and Play College Field Hockey started a recruiting database for players. Now, this is not a database that you enter and you magically get picked to go to a college team. I think a lot of players have a little bit of a misconception on what a database means. So essentially what it is, it's a website that you pay for subscription for, and respectfully, it took us a year to make this database.
You're allowed to charge for products. You don't
Yeah.
have to defend yourself for that.
It took over a year to make this database. I worked extremely hard on it, and we update it every single week. So it takes a lot of effort. So it does, cost money. So you pay a subscription. You have the options for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. 12 months winds up being the cheapest in the long run. However, if you are a 2027 who thinks maybe you'll be committed by June 15th, which that's a major misconception. There's like a whole 7 players that actually commit June 15th.
Then get the 3-month plan. I get it. So
yeah, but that would be a 3-month plan.
Let's go back to the elevator. Right?
Yeah.
So what's the benefit of being in this database?
So you get access to basically all the data we tracked, which includes for goalkeepers, we have predictions on what teams are going to need goalkeepers up to 2029 right now. We'll be adding 2030 probably June or July, depending on majorly the NCAA lawsuit settlement.
Let me stop the elevator.
Okay.
You had the benefit for the goalkeeper. So as a goalkeeper, I can find out, and it's pretty unique as a goalkeeper, like who's going to need a goalkeeper when I go to college. That's basically that's that part of the elevator. And I told you I could help you with that. So
like I said, I am quite literally terrible at elevator. You're not my thing.
I get it. You're explaining a lot of things that are important, but you're the product owner. Might not be so important to the people. Yeah, there's different prices. They'll find out when they get to the website. But as a goalkeeper, I can find out what schools have my major and all that other stuff I've already done. But what schools in your database need a goalkeeper when I graduate from high school? Perfect. Give me another example of that.
Then for all players, whether you're field or goalkeepers, we have coaching contact information for every single coach in college field hockey. So instead of having to search every single website, you just type a school or a coach's name and you have their email address.
Fantastic.
We have a calendar.
By the way, let me interrupt again. Am I allowed to send an email to a college coach?
Yes, at all times. You can
because you know what, that comes anytime. Up all the time.
They just cannot respond until June 15th of your sophomore year. We have a calendar with all major events. So whether it's clinics or so say you want to go to a clinic for Lehigh, you can search Lehigh in the database and see when their clinics are and what events align with that. So if you're also on, U16 national team, you'll see that you have a camp the same weekend or you don't have a camp the same weekend. We have where players come from, which includes player states and player countries. That is right now only Division I. We're adding D2 and D3 eventually. We have commitment data for the classes of 2025 and 2026. So every single player who has committed for the class of 25 and 26, they are in there with their club.
How does that help me?
It helps you recognize when players commit. So teams like Duke, their entire class is more than likely filled for 2026. Versus
so I'm a high school what when this matters to me? I'm a high school junior.
I'm trying not to refer to them as class years. Sophomore for Division I sophomores or D2, D3 juniors.
Okay, so let me say that differently. If I'm a sophomore and I want to play Division One, that is when I need to use your database to find this information.
Yes.
And if I'm looking at Division 2 or 3, it's when I'm a junior. That's
yes.
when I'm going to use
or
it.
earlier. If you,
of course, yes,
you can always use it earlier. If you are a senior, I would not recommend using it personally.
Right.
And then we have commitment data. Oh, we have find a program, which that is kind of basic level information about every team. So their size, their ACTs, SATs, their division, what state they're in, and there might be like I think there's their average ranking for RPI. And then field player trends, which is essentially how many players per position each team typically recruits and their average recruiting class size. And with that spreadsheet, there's also how many spots we predict are remaining in the class of 2026. So for Division 1, it will say like there's 2 spots remaining and there's an average of 2 internationals per year. So you would know, okay, maybe I should not be looking there. Where some teams might have like 5 spots open and they only recruit 1 international. So that's a team I should be still looking at. And we will be adding in this in the next week or two how many players they will have on their team compared to the roster cap. So the roster cap is going to be implemented for this fall, as long as the lawsuit that finishes, I think, next week. It's April 7th. I don't know when that is.
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
Well, so actually, relative to when this publishes, it might be today. But
yeah. So the NCAA lawsuit will implement a roster cap of 27 players. So there are, I think right now there's only 4 teams that we have for the fall that may be over that roster cap, but we are keeping track of how close they are with their committed 2025 class to that roster cap. So that way you know, and eventually we'll add 26s into that number. So you know how many spots they have available.
Let me ask you a product question. Is this a relational database? So if I am doing one part of the search and I find out, let's say I'm a goalkeeper, I don't know this because it's simple. And I'm such a bad goalkeeper. So I'm a goalkeeper. I find there's 5 colleges that are going to have a goalkeeper need when I graduate. And I look at the list of 5 colleges and I click on one, and then I see the coaching information, and then I see the RPI, and then I see a whole bunch of other stuff. Or do I have multiple sections where I find this information in your product?
They're all different pages.
Okay. So do you as the product owner sort of provide me with a cheat sheet on how to use my service, how to use this service?
So we do plan on offering like free Zooms probably in the next 2 weeks. We're gonna have our first one of how to use the product. We're going to do like promotional Zooms. They just have not picked a date yet.
Yeah, those Zooms, I've had a lot of products where they just capture videos of what you're talking about. Yeah. It doesn't have to be interactive. It's just like, oh, you had a question about this. Here's a great little video of how to use our service for that. So that would be, just relative to that might be easier than holding a Zoom. On the other hand, Zooms are great because a meeting like this with Google Meet, because it allows a little more interactive play, question and answering, that sort of thing. Okay, this thing you mentioned has a website, a URL, a web address, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Let me just look on my computer what it is. Okay, so it's Play College Field Hockey /PCF for Play College Field Hockey. Letter X EFHA for the Field Hockey Analyst.
Just wait a second.
I think you froze.
If I go to playfieldhockey.com,
yeah,
will I find a link?
You have to press on work with me and then it will show up.
Okay. And what if I go to the fieldhockeyanalyst.com?
I don't have a website, but if you go to my Instagram, it is the first link in our bio.
Okay. All right. Very good. So it's easy to find.
Yes.
I think probably easier than that whole string of things that you said. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
It's quite a few letters.
Yes, quite a few. All right. Well, have you already set pricing?
Yes.
Would you like to share? Well, this
Um,
might not age that well, so
yeah,
it might change by that time.
I believe we are meant to be doing a price increase in the next couple of days, so I'm not going to say the prices because
Okay,
I
okay, fair
don't
enough.
know when they switch.
Right, and we don't know exactly when this video will post. So
Yeah.
the point is, it's a great value for the money.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just realized I'm looking at you on my screen a lot. For the people at home, that means I'm not looking at you. So I apologize for that, but I feel more better connection with Allison when I'm looking at her rather than this camera that's in front of me. Well, Allison, thank you very much for being on Field Hockey Talk. And you can go to fieldhockeytalk.com to learn about the other episodes that we've done. We've done some product evaluations that I've done, just I really enjoy this opportunity to talk to people that are involved with field hockey because I'm a crazy field hockey person, and it's just a lot of fun. We do have merch where you can get a T-shirt like this or other things at merch.fieldhockeytalk.com. And Allison, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me.